Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 3 of Home Rhythms, where we'll be looking at the power of music and how certain music can really have the power to transport listeners through time and space. Now, thinking about space, let's first take a moment to acknowledge the space that I occupy every day. And if it's the same for you as it is for me, it's the land of the traditional, ancestral, and unceded territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh people. And I encourage you to think about the land that you may be on if it's different from me. Let's think about the traditional caretakers of that land. And I raise my hands in thanks for being a guest on this ancient territory. Now I ask you the question, have you ever woken up and heard the sound of rain outside? If you're from Vancouver, you would know this sound and kind of felt comforted by it, thought it was maybe beautiful. Or have you ever sat underneath a tree and heard the birds sing and felt like it was a truly orchestrated performance? Well, if you've answered yes, then you might agree with what our friend Balam is about to share with us about his music and his process and where all that comes from. Now, you may remember Balam because he was the featured rapper in our last episode, and he also led the body percussion with his family in the episode before that. Well, today, he's prepared something very special for us, specifically for us as listeners. So let's go have a little chat with him.
You find this a lot, maybe, but in indigenous culture, in our indigenous culture, the first artists were the birds, right? The trees, the wind, the water, the earth, the thunder, your heartbeat. I mean, whatever is natural, right? Whatever resonates. So for us, and in our culture, music is the same thing. Music is nature, and we utilize music to open our hearts and our spirits even more. We use it to connect.
Now, what I love about what Balam is saying here is that music is nature. Music is in our human nature. It's one of the ways, as he said, that we connect with ourselves, connect with others, and connect to the earth beneath our feet. Now, if you ever felt like you just can't sing, or you just don't have rhythm, or that you're just not musical, I don't know if I believe you. You see, because if you've got a voice to speak, then you can stretch that voice wherever you want it to go. All you need to do is practice. And if you've got feet, then you can walk, you can run, and you can tap out a beat. And if you've got ears and a heart, then you'll also be able to join me today in going on the musical journey that Balam has created for us. Now, we're both really excited to share this with you, but first let's understand from Balam where this music comes from and why it was so important that Balam create it this way.
In our indigenous culture, which is Nawa, Maya, Linka, I guess the umbrella of it, so people can understand, is like Mayan, Aztec stuff. The earth held all of the nourishment for your spirit and your mind and your body and your heart. So there's also nourishment in the sounds that you can hear when you wake up or just in the wind. So it's these sounds that our ancestors were obsessed with, and therefore they replicated and they created instruments that replicate those sounds. So now, couple thousand years later, we continue the tradition of incorporating and integrating and maintaining the voice of the earth in the music.
As Balam said, people thousands of years ago, his ancestors, for example, were inspired by the sounds of nature, and so they designed instruments to recreate those sounds. And in fact, the Museum of Anthropology houses quite an impressive collection of the instruments we are talking about today. Let's have a quick look. As you can see on the MOA online catalog, there's quite a diversity of ceramic whistles inspired by such things as the bird. And they date back all the way to before the Common Era. Now, what's so exciting is that Balam is a local contemporary artist living in Vancouver who continues this tradition and creates some of his very own.
It's this big one.
Wow.
It's also not fired.
Instrument.
Yeah.
Looks like a work of art. I mean, I guess it could be both.
Yeah. So it's just It's in English it's armadillo.
Yeah.
So these ones are found in America. They're native, right? So our people ate them, but also respect them. So this one, yeah, it sounds like this.
Wow.
It's deep. That's
Yeah.
why I made it. I made it to so you can hear like the bass.
Yeah. And I guess that deep bass sound is due to the bigger chamber.
Yeah. Just as everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
Bigger sax, bass here. Smaller.
Yeah, just like the violin compared to the stand-up bass.
Exactly. So bigger, bass here. This other one is the one that I always usually bring at the shows. It's
I
just
think I've
small.
seen that before. Yeah.
And yeah, if you guys can see it. That's what it looks like.
Ooh, that's a human
Yeah.
with the cute little belly button.
Yeah. That's it.
So Balam has introduced us to the armadillo, the large chambered clay whistle, as well as his little human clay whistle, which, what do you think? Does it have a higher or lower pitch? Higher or lower tone? Well, let's wait and see because we're about to find out. Now is the moment, friends, to find a comfortable position and pay attention to the sounds that you are about to hear, combined in a composition Balam has created specifically for you. Now, pay attention to where these sounds transport you in your imagination and how they are making you feel. We will begin in 3, 2, 1. Welcome back. Where have you been? Where did Balam's music take you? Is it a place you've been to before? Is it a place you'd like to go to? Now, thanks to Balam's work in reconnecting and learning about the people that he comes from, the people and who they are and who they were, we as listeners who may not come from the same culture are able to catch a glimpse to really feel that atmosphere that is just as ancient as it is current right now.
And part of bringing back the ancient wisdom is to apply all the wisdom that was given before.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's how we learn. Our parents offer us guidance, we take it. The world offers us guidance, we take it, and we step further. Everything that we have and we know was given to us already. Nothing, language, our clothes, our music, how we live together, how we build houses, how we do math, everything was created and evolved by our ancestors and by different ancestors. So it's all about taking, reconnecting, and taking what is good and applying it today. So playing the instruments is kind of like cleansing my spirit and the space through the only way that is natural to me.
Now let's listen to Balam's message and ask ourselves who are our ancestors if they're not from this place and you don't know much about them. Let's ask ourselves what kind of music they created and what did they do to connect with each other and to the land that they are from? What did they play together to celebrate? What did they play at ceremonies? Now, what fascinated me, for example, doing some research of my own, some of my ancestry is Irish, so they played Irish jigs on the fiddle. Or I learned from my mom that not too far back in history, my great aunt from Kingston, Jamaica, who was Jewish Portuguese, played the violin and taught music. This surprised me and made me feel like I wasn't so distant from her, despite time and space. Now I invite you to ask your elders, your parents, your grandparents, the same question about who your people come from and what music they made in celebrations and ceremonies together. I also invite you to think about the power that music can create in creating atmosphere, just like what you experienced. Do you have a bedtime story that can be brought more alive with a little bit of sound, a little bit of sound effects? I invite you to explore all those possibilities. Thank you for being with me through this musical journey. And I leave you now with a composition that I'd like this time that you listen to with your eyes closed, to really sink into and see where it transports you. This is Olivia, wishing you all the best in music and in health. Signing off.